Hello and welcome to Don't Get Your Feathers in a Twist. My name's Jane and I'm a holistic practitioner, and this is my podcast. It's not polished, but it's real. So today I'm going to talk to you about NLP. What is NLP? Neuro-linguistic Programming. Easy for me to say. So let me just give you an example of what NLP is. So you go to town and you see a friend that you haven't seen for ages, and she says, well, give me a call next week and we'll catch up. It'd be nice to have a chat. So next week comes and you give her a call and you don't hear back from her. So you think, okay, she might be busy. A couple of more days go by and you give her another call. And then you send her a text. So then you start to think, well, did I say anything when we met? Did she really want to meet up? And then you start to think of all these things. Well, oh God, I've done something wrong. I've obviously offended her in some way. Perhaps she didn't really want to catch up. You know, we haven't seen each other for years. What happened? Did we fall out? So you start thinking all these types of things, and you start overthinking, and you start getting yourself into such a state where you're getting anxious and stressed that actually you've come to a conclusion at the end of, say, 4 or 5 days when you've not heard from her that she's just been messing you around. And you're thinking, well, if she does ring back now, I'm not interested. I'm not going to answer a call. That's it. We're done. In reality, what's really happened, you don't know. But your mind and your thought pattern has conjured up all these types of scenarios that what it could be. But you have no facts to support your thoughts. You've just been sat there and you've been seeing other people and saying, I've rang her, she's not got back to me, and other people may be commenting to say, well, she's obviously not interested, and it just spirals and spirals and spirals. So at this point now, if she calls, you're not interested. So a couple of days later, the phone rings and she rings you up and she says, I'm so sorry that I haven't been in touch. When I saw you that day, I actually left my phone in a shop, and this is the first time I've been able to go and get it. So I'm really sorry if I didn't get back to you. Shall we meet up? All this time you'd created this scenario in your head when actually the facts said something completely different, and the facts pointed towards the issue that she wasn't being funny, she wasn't ignoring you, she genuinely had a reason why she didn't have a phone. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be some people that would be ignoring you, and that's a different scenario. But that's just an example of how your thought pattern and how you process thought and your relationship with thought. So what NLP does, NLP gets in there and it changes your relationship with thought. So your relationship with thought becomes more based on fact. For instance, is if you've got a fear of birds or any type of fear, phobia, whatever. But just to give you another example, you may see a piece of red material or something, or red leaf or something like that, and you think, oh my God, it's a tomato. And your reaction, because you have a fear of tomatoes, is you scream and all this, as that's how you would normally react. Because what your brain does is it goes back into, or your subconscious, I should say, goes back into your filing box, your filing cabinet, and it goes down and it finds tomato. I'll go into tomato, and if I see anything I think it's a tomato, that's how I react. I scream and shout and run away and get anxious and can't breathe and all those types of things, because that's a learned behaviour. That's what I know how to react. Now, that may have been inherited through something when you were smaller. It may be a learned behaviour because a parent or a friend or a close relative has that type of reaction. So you pick these things up and you store them in your filing cabinet. So what NLP helps with, as well as hypnotherapy, what NLP does is it can very quickly reset that. So if you were to see a red piece of material or whatever, again in the future, you think, oh, that's fine. That's the tomato. That's absolutely fine. And one of the ways that NLP can do that is just to have a conversation. So with the difference with NLP is you're not in hypnosis. It works very well with hypnotherapy, and quite often I blend the two. But what NLP does is allows people that not comfortable being hypnotized, just have a normal conversation like this. I'll be there and I'll be like, just close your eyes, and I'll take you through some different steps. So NLP has some really quick solutions where you can reset fears and phobias quite quickly. So I can reset, or I have reset phobias of spiders, etc. quite quickly. And I've reset a phobia of spiders in 20 minutes previously. So there's all these types of quick things you can do with NLP. That's not the same for everyone, but it does work. And it amazes me how it works every time, because it's a very simple technique. You can go down some very different avenues and some different types of NLP, and this will all be determined at the complementary meeting. But I think the key thing is with NLP, and what interests me more than anything else, it's quite logical and very simple when you look at it. One of the other techniques it uses is your eyes, because your eyes can tell a lot about you and how you recall things. So how you recall information and how you recall memories and things like that. So I'll be watching your eyes as to which way they go. And that's quite interesting, because you find then you're watching people's eyes on TV and stuff like that. And it does tell a lot about somebody. So with the complementary meeting, I'll be looking out for these signs as to how you recall information and how you think about things. The other types of information I'll be looking out for and listening is how you say things. Are you very auditory? So you hear stuff. When you recall stuff, you hear the sounds. And when you look at things, are you visual? Do you like a visual representation, or do you like to feel things? So if you were in a classroom and somebody was talking at you all the time, but you were very visual, the talking would go in, but you may not be able to remember it all. Whereas if they started writing on a blackboard, do they have blackboards anymore? Whiteboards or whatever, then you could probably see the visual aspect of it, and that would make more sense to you. So this is interesting, when, especially in the workplace, when people can't understand why people don't get things, it's because probably you're talking in the wrong rep system. And I actually think this would be a good way to change the education, if you like, to actually talk to people and deal with people in their rep system, because it makes it a lot easier for that person. So you just can't have one technique with NLP. So I'll be looking at all these types of things. I'm very auditory and visual. So when I think about things, I see the visual as well, but I also hear it. So if I'm recalling gigs and stuff like that, because I'm very much into my music, I will recall the music and I'll see it at the same time. Another example of this is if you're looking at some instructions and somebody starts to read them out, I cannot then read the instructions because I'm listening. So it really confuses me. And especially in quizzes, we play a lot of quizzes. And if somebody starts to read the question out and I'm trying to read the question, I just cannot fathom it at all. So those type of things you might relate to. But for me, it really is, do not read the question, because I cannot read the question or understand it. So that's the type of rep system that I have. So these types of things are very important. And also when I'm tailoring the sessions, I will try and tailor the sessions to talk in that same rep system. So do you feel this, or do you see this? There's two very, very different types of instruction, if you like. So all these types of things I'm going to be looking for in the complementary meeting. And that's why it's so important, because if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. NLP is very simple and delivers some very, very quick results. But working with hypnotherapy as well, it delivers some tremendous results. There's lots of other things that I can do with NLP, but it really depends on the person and the issues and the challenges that we're talking about. But if you can't be hypnotised, NLP is a great one to have in your toolbox. It's like the Swiss Army knife, the one you've always got in your toolbox. Although I don't have one, so I don't know. But the NLP is great, and I will try and work NLP and hypnotherapy together. If there's a need for it, if there's no need for it, then I'll work separately. Every session is tailored to the person that I'm working with, and that's really important. And again, I think with NLP, there's no right or wrong answers. You know, there's no right or wrong answers to any questions. Whether if I'm asking this, why, X, Y, and Z, I might ask you some very strange questions, only because you might say, well, actually, I remember this, and then I'll question about it. So the same results with NLP, the same outcomes. You could find that you actually want to shout and scream or cry. Anything like this is perfectly normal. And you can do that in the session, perfectly fine. So there are no right or wrong ways again. And that's what I love about NLP and hypnotherapy. It's flexible. And I need to think on my feet based on the answers and the information your subconscious is giving me. So it's quite interesting. We're just sat like we would be now talking, and I'll just say, close your eyes, and then we'll go into NLP. That's it, depending on which bit of NLP that we decide to do. For me, NLP is fantastic. I absolutely love it. When I first started learning NLP, I was quite surprised by it, I think, because it was such a simple, logical way of approaching how people work with each other. And once you've got an understanding of how to use NLP, it's very, very, very powerful, yet simple. And it gives some fantastic results. And again, this is why I would always suggest a minimum of 2 sessions, because you don't know what this will then release, what your subconscious is going to say, okay, well, you've got rid of that fear of tomatoes, if you like, but actually now this has come to the surface. And again, that's perfectly normal. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we can get rid of your fear of tomatoes, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes you need another session because it's then released something else, and then we can work on that. So some of these issues can be deep rooted. So a simple fear of tomatoes, which people might think, oh God, she's got a fear of tomatoes. Actually, what happened, what caused that fear of tomatoes is what we need to get to, is the nitty gritty. And what I do is reset. So NLP resets. So that if you see a tomato or what you think is a tomato in the future, you go back into your filing cabinet, that file on tomato has been deleted and there is no file there. And it just means you just think, oh yeah, that's a tomato, it's a tomato. And you just carry on. So it's resetting. We don't say every time you see a tomato, you need to go and have a cream cake. That might be quite nice, but I don't think it'd be very healthy. What NLP does is resets you back to the best version of you. So hopefully that was give you a bit of an insight into what NLP is all about. Again, the complimentary session is really important, and hopefully you can understand why it's really important at this stage. Just remember, the complimentary session is free. If you so choose to book sessions after that, that's absolutely fine. I am not going to come after you and chase you. Again, it's entirely your choice. There's no point trying to force somebody into a hypnotherapy or NLP session just because I want to make some money. That is not what I'm about, and that is not the way to move forward. Thank you for listening to Don't Get Your Feathers in a Twist. Please check out my website, www.7purplefeathers.com, and if you've got any questions, queries or comments, please get in touch.